I wondered if visitors to Paris were deliberately targeted, becoming victims of the increasing crime wave Paris was experiencing. I thought I'd never see it again, but apparently my camera has been found.
I'm on the way to the police station, just up here, to retrieve the camera, which unexpectedly turned up after it was nicked from the car in one of the big and dangerous hotspots. It's up here on the right. Okay.
The police told me they had found my camera left by the road in the same spot it had been stolen from. Maybe Zid was right when he said that no one in his neighborhood would dare to undermine his authority. Back in the Bosquets, for people like Zid, the recognized streets of central Paris are like a foreign country, making the sense of alienation from French society even stronger.
We are going to Paris. It's different in Paris. It's another world. It's another universe. It's a world of riches. There are places in Paris that are forbidden to us. The Champs-Élysées, the Eiffel Tower. These areas are not for us. If we wanted to go to the Champs-Élysées, go to the nightclubs, it's impossible. They never let us in. They generalize everyone. They think all the youth from the suburbs are delinquents.
The Champs-Élysées is the most expensive strip of real estate in Europe. But even though Zid's neighborhood of the Bosquets is only 15 miles away, they are worlds apart.
That's the Champs-Élysées, the most beautiful road in the world. Here, Paris is clean and beautiful city, but in the suburbs, it's totally different. If they went to Les Bosquets, they would see the misery and the dirt. They wouldn't be able to cope because they are too used to their life of luxury. It's the car of my dreams, the car of my dreams that I will definitely never have. That's the ghetto, represent.
Allez à la police, trop tard. Fin du spectacle.
Ah, c'est fini.
There's the police, there you go, the show's finished. They're young black men from the suburb, so of course they are stopped.
That's the sound of the police! That's the sound of the beast!
Even in the centre of the city, packed amongst the tourists, Paris seems to have an inescapable tension in the air. I'd heard one side of the conflict through Zid and his mates, but I was curious to hear from the other side. For me, it seemed that policing parts of Paris today was like policing a war zone. I'm meeting with former riot cop Marc Le Boutin, who for the last 20 years has seen Paris become tougher and tougher, right from the front line.
Les jeunes, the young from the banlieue, say that the police are racist, they're oppressive, they're violent, and that's why this conflict. What's your view on that?
There is an immigration policy decided by the present government. That means police officers have to systematically stop and search people who are Arabic, originally African, or have a different color of skin. This is very intrusive for people. A policeman can't refuse because the police officer does exactly what he's told.
Is it true that parts of the banlieue appear to be a no-go zone, a no-go area for the police?
A problem we have today is that most young police officers come from the countryside and find themselves dropped straight into an area where there is a huge gap between the lives they have experienced and what they are witnessing now. And suddenly they become adults in a very violent world. In fact, everyone is scared. One way to deal with the fear is to become arrogant or violent.
If the rookie cops are going in there scared, terrified of the dangers, inevitably the people in the banlieue decide, okay, they'll react. So by being aggressive and nervous, you create your own reaction.
It becomes a power game. On the street, it's survival of the fittest. And the kids in gangs know that all too well.
I was starting to understand why this iconic city was such a tough town. The police of Paris and the disaffected communities from the banlieue seemed trapped in perpetual conflict against each other. Neither side being able to back down for fear of showing weakness. It seemed a chaotic situation, and I'd heard stories of people who were trying to manipulate the chaos and stoke the fires of conflict even further. Kemi Saba is a charismatic leader of a black militant group. He preaches racial solidarity amongst black and Arabic peoples in France, and also a message of violent opposition towards Israel and Zionism.
Dire que vous vous battez contre un système prédateur, un système raciste, et oblitérer la thématique de l'occupant et du système suivant.
He recently served time in prison for his role in a violent attack on a Jewish neighborhood. This footage shows Kemi and his supporters burning an Israeli flag. Kemi's ideas have caused outrage in France, and he's now facing more time behind bars on fresh charges of inciting racial hatred and stoking the fires of conflict in Paris. If found guilty, he could face another 6 months in prison. The charges of anti-Semitism had been brought by a group called the Union of Jewish French Students.
Kemi Seba represents a threat with what he does. He recruits on the internet. He works in the suburb to cultivate hatred, especially hatred of the Jews.
The worry amongst Jewish groups and other Parisians is that Kemi's extreme ideas were promoting a new brand of violence and terror onto the streets of central Paris. In January 2006, a young Jewish man named Ilan Halimi was kidnapped in central Paris and driven out to the suburbs. He was imprisoned in a flat in the banlieue where he was starved and tortured. Halimi was eventually found alive 3 weeks later, tied and handcuffed to a tree near a train track. His body was covered with stab wounds, burns from acid and flammable liquids, and he died on his way to hospital. Residents of the estate had heard his screams of terror and the laughter of those torturing him.
It was a horrible crime and also anti-Semitic. I tell myself he can't have endured all these horrible things for 3 weeks. It's not possible. They're not human beings. They're monsters.
Eventually, 15 youths from the banlieue were arrested. They were members of a loose gang of desperados who share a hatred of Jewish people.
I believe without a doubt that Kemi Seba had an influence on the kidnapping and the torture and murder of Ilan Halimi, because his speeches of hatred were quoted directly by one of the kidnappers.
Ilan Halimi's murder was just one of the numerous racially motivated attacks within the French capital. Kemi Seba's influence does seem to be growing, and his followers and their brutal ways were bringing a new sense of fear into the centre of Paris. After numerous calls and conversations with his spokesperson, Kemi has agreed to meet. He rarely gives interviews, but has agreed to talk to us on the basis that we're an English TV crew and not French, as he believes the local media are biased against him and his cause.
I'm a bit nervous. I'm about to meet Kemi Seba. Now, he hates whites and he hates journalists only a little bit more than he hates whites. He's about to face trial and sentencing probably tomorrow for incitement to violence and anti-Semitic behaviour. I'm going to meet him. I'm delighted he's going to meet me, and I have no idea what's going to happen. There he is. Pleasure. Thanks very much.
Kemi Seba is rarely seen in public without a large gang of henchmen.
Irish? Irish, yeah. Yeah.
He told me how it all started for him after a trip to America.
I spent 3 weeks in the States when I was younger. During this period, I made the Nation of Islam.
Now, brothers, there's a social benefit.
The Nation of Islam is an American power group that preaches a message of black supremacy. The organization has had famous followers such as Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X.
It was the beginning for me and my work. For me, my fight is my work. It's my destiny. It's my life.
Since Kemi seemed to appeal so much to the angry youth from the banlieue, I wondered what his view was on the riots.
The young are starting to take charge. The young blacks, the young Arabs, and other minorities are starting to take over. They realize that the police aren't there to protect them, but are actually the cause of the problem.
Kemi explained to me that the people in his movement were the same kind of people as those that took part in the riots. They were poor and angry young people from the suburbs. Is it essential for change to have it accompanied by violence?
Peace, if possible, violence when necessary. Violence is necessary when you are oppressed for centuries. We don't want a debate with the enemy. We want to defeat the enemy.
Kemi Seba has a power over the disaffected youth of the city, and he appears to have been an influencing factor in the young people rising up against the authorities, as well as one of the most brutal racially motivated murders in Paris's recent history. Meeting him makes me fearful for Paris's future. Coming up, I find out there are no winners, only losers in Paris's civil war.
And it's the people who live here who have to pay the price.
And see Kemi Seba's followers' anti-Semitism in action.
Bande de chiens!